regular visitor of my channel, then you all know the background behind me means that today I am visiting a film from cinemas past, and that film is Burnt Offerings. Burnt Offerings is a 1976 American mystery horror film directed by Dan Curtis and written by Curtis and William F. Nolan, based on the 1973 novel of the same name by Robert Marasco. The story concerns a family who moves into an old house that regenerates itself by feeding off the life force of any occupant that is injured or in pain. I have a deep love and appreciation for old school horror movies. When so many horror films are being saturated with instant gratification and gore, it gets very repetitive, and sometimes it can even lose its desired effect because at times the gore doesn't match the story, or sometimes it detracts from the story entirely. So I find it very relaxing to sometimes go back and watch the old school style that was the complete opposite. Old school horror was more about delayed gratification. They always saved the best for last, and gore was very limited, at times non-existent. Their style was to have a moment here or there to remind you what kind of movie this was, but it always leads to a big climactic ending. Using this traditional formula really allowed the ending to be so effective and impactful. Just look back at Psycho. People today who haven't seen it still know how it ends, but that is still one of the most shocking moments in horror history. While this film is definitely formulaic given the type of style, it completely works. The performances from all the actors in this are everything. Everything they were selling, I was buying. The fear they felt, the almost hypnotic trance-like attitude from some characters, all of it was just spot on. Absolute perfection from start to finish. Throw away the receipts, cause I'm buying it. The score, which was done by Bob Cobert, was fantastic. It was this perfect, eerie melody, and it's the first thing we hear as the movie fades in, and it sets up the tone for the entire film. Even when nothing is happening, that score is still playing, and it constantly reminds the audience this is not a film where you can relax, and these characters are not in a safe environment. I loved it from start to finish. It was the cherry on top of a horror cake. The story itself reminded me a lot of Rose Red, which is one of my favourite pieces of work. While I know Rose Red was inspired by the Winchester Mystery House and a supposedly haunted house in Stephen King's childhood neighbourhood, part of me wonders if he'd seen this movie and got inspiration from it too, because they do share similarities. Both centre around a house that has a life of its own, a house that feeds on the occupants inside, and a house that can grow and change on its own thanks to the people it feeds off of. One moment in particular that reminded me of it so much was in the start of the film. The flowers in the greenhouse are all dead, but as the film progresses, the flowers start to come to life, and they did the same thing in Rose Red. There was a dead, barren greenhouse, and as the house started to wake up and feed on the energy of the people inside, the plants and flowers started to bloom again. I would like to add that after writing my review and investigating some of the film's trivia, I found out that this is in fact one of Stephen King's favourite horror movies, so it's clear that the similarities I picked up on were not accidental. There are some parts of the film I'm not 100% certain on. Oliver Reed's character keeps having these visions of a very creepy character from his childhood, and I'm not sure the significance. I feel that the character represents the Grim Reaper, but if so, I don't understand why he sees the character in place of his wife. Perhaps it suggests what's going on with her, I really don't know. While it was certainly creepy, it didn't make a whole lot of sense, but it was still effective. The concept of a little old lady who doesn't exist but then does exist only when a character is possessed also confuses the hell out of me. I mean, it's a very impactful scene and it certainly kept me up at night thinking about it, but there are some holes in it that I can't shake. Considering the character had pretty much broken the hold on her thanks to maternal instinct overpowering it, the idea that it took a sudden 2 minutes to complete the process doesn't sync up for me. But that is a scene I will never forget, holes or no holes. I also don't completely understand a scene where Karen Black's character refuses to have sex with her husband. It had something to do with the house, but I'm not sure what or why. When one of the characters dies at the end, I was a little irritated simply because this is one aspect of old school horror I don't miss. There are so many older films where, say, a rain of boulders are falling down a cliff and the character at the bottom of the cliff has more than enough time to move out of the way, but they don't. They just stand there for 5 minutes screaming until eventually they're crushed to death. This is very much what happened. A chimney begins to collapse and the character below, instead of simply moving out of the way as bricks start to fly in his direction, he just stands there screaming until he is eventually crushed to death. This is a death that was avoidable in so many ways. Just by moving to the left or right would have sufficed. It's like watching Charlize Theron's death in Prometheus. All she had to do was run sideways. While there are a couple moments I don't completely understand and I wish there had been more of a backstory to give us more context to the events of the film, I still felt this was really good. It does what I love in classic horror, and it certainly made an impact on me. If you are someone who prefers instant gratification in your horror films, then this is not the movie for you, but if you prefer things to take their time, give you a taste here and there before giving you the big finale, then this is right up your alley and you should definitely give this a watch. Thank you for stopping by and watching this video. Drop some dialogue into the comments below and perhaps take a scroll through some of my other videos. Until next time, bye.
A room is still a room, even when there's nothing there but gloom.